Hello, I am Jana Schreiner, a consultant for accountability and state assessment here at Region 10 Education Service Center. The purpose of this video today is to provide an overview of one of the critical success factors. And I'm just going to jump right in to the first critical success factor, which is quality data to drive instruction. What you see in front of you are the Texas Systems of Support as it pertains to schools in the state. All schools in the state belong in one of these categories. You have the best practices schools, the continuous improvement schools, the support schools, the focus schools, and then the priority schools. The Texas School Support Systems categorizes schools into increasing levels of assistance and interventions through the identified school needs. This slide represents the Texas Accountability Intervention Systems, and the purpose of this video is to look at the center part of that slide, which is the critical success factors. There are listed here all of the different critical success factors which are very important in terms of school improvement. The one that we're going to focus on today, again, is use of quality data to drive instruction. Talking points today will be the data disaggregation training, data-driven decisions, and then ongoing communication as it pertains to data. And basically, again, since this is an overview, the real point of this critical success factor is that using quality data to drive instruction emphasizes that each campus has in place data disaggregation training for the teachers, for any staff, administrators that need that training, and then the ongoing communication of data to all the stakeholders in order to improve the student learning outcomes. The focus of this critical success factor is using formative assessment data, summative assessment data, perception data, etc., to drive instruction. This next particular slide is just focusing on the fact that there are more types of data than just one for school administrators, for districts, for campuses to look at. This is Bernhardt's multiple measures of data. You see that there are 4 circles here. We have demographic data, we have perception data, student learning data, and then school processes data. So there could be data pieces that are in more than one measure. So I want to look at each one of these individually. In terms of data disaggregation, one of the things that we look at most often is demographic data, and this explains how the school is made up. It's important to look at demographic data so that administrators, teachers, and school staff do understand the makeup of a school. It also includes things that a school wouldn't typically necessarily think to look at, which may be attendance data, discipline data. That's all considered demographic. The other side of demographic data is assessment data, and as we look at assessment data, looking at it by demographic to determine if we have certain groups of students that are doing better than other groups of students and how we can address that. School processes data. This is the most difficult piece for our campuses because you can't get this piece of data from the state. There isn't necessarily a state report that comes out that a campus can look at. But what's very important for administrators to consider is that this is a program evaluation piece where school administrators can say, okay, we've developed this program, for example, Saturday School. We've developed this program and we've continued to implement it. Is it working, or are we just continuing to have the program because it's something that we've always done? So looking at both the demographic data and then school processes data is very important in kind of providing a picture of what that school may look like. Okay, the third circle in that graphic is going to be your student learning data. This is data that describes the result of instruction. This is the data that is most looked on whenever we look at student learning. We look at STAR results, we look at benchmark results. Teachers should be looking at the results of their formative assessments or however their students are demonstrating that they're learning the concepts during instruction. Finally, perception data. Perception data is qualitative data in that it's results of surveys, questionnaires, interviews. You don't usually have perception data annually, but it's very important to look at perception data in conjunction with your student learning, demographic, and student processes data, just so you get a clear picture of root causes, things that are going on a campus. As I said earlier, the one that we look at the most often is student learning data, and certainly it is very important to look at that on a very regular basis to drive our instruction. But it's also important that we look at other types of data besides just the student learning, because those data also have a story to tell. The reason that we look at these types of data is, first of all, to just replace hunches and hypotheses with facts, if you will. There have been many times when I've been on a campus and have asked a question about how is Saturday school, for example, working here on this campus. Rather than a teacher answering that question with just their own perception, whenever you look at these data on a regular basis, you're able to determine really how that is working. By the same token, when you're talking about student learning data, if teachers and PLCs work together to look at student learning data very often, if a teacher is asked, how are your students progressing through the curriculum, then he or she will be able to answer definitively because on a regular basis they look at that data with their PLC group. Second reason why we look at data is to assess needs to target services. As we look at that student learning data, for example, and we see that a student may be struggling with a particular skill, then we're able to determine if there are interventions that need to be developed for that student, and it's based on, again, facts rather than perceptions or guesses. The final two bullets here, we look at data just to provide information to eliminate ineffective practices. That's more of looking at that process data. And then to continuously improve all aspects of a learning organization. There's no way that you can improve a learning organization without looking at where they currently are, and examining this data tell us that. So in terms of data and this critical success factor, this is just a broad kind of overview of things to think about as you look at quality data to drive instruction. But here at Region 10, we have several services to support this critical success factor. One of those things up here is just to come out and facilitate data disaggregation at the campus level, work with campus leadership to either do that just with a leadership team or even with a whole campus. We have another service called a Campus Snapshot, where a team of us come out and do observations, look at a lot of qualitative perception data. And then really with the student learning data, the Eduphoria team is very, very helpful in terms of being able to break down that student learning data and be able to target certain students' skill levels, etc. I have an available resource for you here, the www.region10.org/state and federal initiatives. And then finally, I just have our contact information listed here. Natasha Scott is the program coordinator for state and federal initiatives, and again, I'm Janice Schreiner, the consultant for accountability and state assessment. And this has been the Critical Success Factor, Quality Data to Drive Instruction. Thank you.